television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausan Pereira. In an attempt to be dropped from the Financial Action Task Force's grey list, Pakistan has banned 88 new terrorists in compliance with the new list issued by the United Nations Security Council. The banned terrorists include Hafiz Saeed, Masood Azhar and Dawood Ibrahim. Paris-based FATF put Pakistan on the grey list in June 2018 and asked Islamabad to implement a plan of action by the end of 2019, but the deadline was extended later due to COVID-19 pandemic. The Pakistan government issued two notifications on August 18th announcing sanctions on key leaders of terror outfits such as 2611 Mumbai attack mastermind and Jamaat-ud-Dawa chief Hafiz Saeed, Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar and underworld don Dawood Ibrahim. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze Pakistan's terror list and the FATF. Joining me on the program today are Rana Banerji, former Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, Major General Ashwani, Siwach, retired defense expert, and Ashok Sajjanhar, former ambassador. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Ambassador, I'd like to begin the program with you. What are your thoughts really on Pakistan putting these 88 new terrorists on this particular list and banning them actually? What do you make of this?
You know, Frank, as you mentioned yourself, Pakistan was put on the grey list. You know, it had been on the grey list earlier also, but the most recent case, it was put on the grey list in June 2018. And it is desperate to get out of the grey list. It wants to come out on the white list. So there were a number of conditions that had been imposed. You know, some of the conditions, about 27 of them, that it had to meet if it wanted to get out of that grey list. So it has been trying to do that desperately. And this list is to be submitted to the FATF by early next month. The plenary meeting will take place in October. The meeting to discuss this actually should have taken place in June, but because of COVID, it did not take place in June. So now it has been postponed, so the matter will be considered in October of this year. So Pakistan's economy is in shambles. It is in tatters. It is not getting any inward investments, and its economy is really going down the drain. We have seen what has been happening as far as relations between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are concerned. Saudi Arabia, because of Pakistan's very bad economic condition, had 2 years ago advanced some funds to it, about $3 billion in cash support for budgetary support and $3 billion in terms of subsidized oil supplies. But because of what Pakistan has, the sort of warning or threat that it has issued on the question of Kashmir, that Saudi Arabia is not organizing a meeting of the OIC on Kashmir. Saudi Arabia had withdrawn, asked it to reimburse the $1 billion, which Pakistan had to go to China. So Pakistan is desperate to get out of the grey list, but there is a lot of pressure also. Last year also there was a pressure in June when this grey list was extended that it should be put in the blacklist. But that did not happen because three countries came to its support, China, Turkey and Malaysia. But right now, Pakistan wants to show that it has made significant progress on the demands of FATF. And in that context, it has put out this list which has designated these terrorists, which has sought to freeze their assets. And also it has acknowledged that Dawood Ibrahim is on its territory. And it also tried to put through two bills, one on anti-money laundering and the other on the Waqf properties in Islamabad capital territory. These two, unfortunately for Imran Khan, were turned down in the Senate, and now they will go to a joint session of the parliament. So we'll have to wait how it goes forward. But the short story is Pakistan is desperate to do all that it takes to get out of the grey list.
Absolutely. General, as far as this particular issue is concerned, do you believe that this is just a eyewash, or how serious is Pakistan to actually do something about these terrorists?
Yeah, Frank, no doubt about it. If you see the track record of Pakistan, it does not inspire too much confidence. You see, earlier also they have put restriction on Jamaat-ud-Dawa chief Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar. and first time they are now accepting that Dawood Ibrahim is in Pakistan. He is staying in Clifton, in Karachi, in White House. Earlier they have not done it. But having said so, every time whenever there is a meeting which is taking place of Financial Action Task Force, they take some sort of action against this terrorist organization and the terrorists. And thereafter, once this meeting is over, thereafter, you find that the business as usual. Second thing, what they do is they intimate them well in time. The three restrictions which are imposed are basically that their movable and immovable property is seized, their banks accounts are frozen, and there is a restriction on their moving abroad. But all these have no meaning because they are intimated well in time, except that the moving abroad is the one which is the actual restriction. So therefore, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is more of a eyewash than actually taking action. You remember after they have declared this SRO, Statutory Regulatory Order, where 88 terrorists were declared, and they have accepted Dawood Ibrahim is in Pakistan, in Karachi, they have taken a U-turn. Next day only they said that so-and-so is not there. So therefore, Pakistan, you can imagine it, they are not very serious in doing money laundering and terrorist funding. They are basically, you can say they are the one which are totally guilty for that. So I don't think they will be doing anything very seriously against terrorist organization. Whatever they are doing it is basically they are under tremendous pressure because the Financial Action Task Force, keeping their track record, may try to put them in a blacklist, and they want to get out of the grey list. See the financial condition of Pakistan as today. Today they have $115 billion as a debt they have taken from different countries as a loan, and they have to pay $4 billion every year. From where is the money? They have to take loan to pay the interest of the loan. And second thing is that they have got only foreign reserve of less than $10 billion, which cannot even look after 1 month of their import. Their foreign exchange reserve is less than Afghanistan. The inflation today is more than 15%. Their, export is dwindling down. It is hardly any export. No investment is coming. The rupee, as far as Pakistan is concerned, has come down 30 to 40% in last 2-3 years compared to dollar. So overall, today Pakistan is in a financial crisis. It is all eyewash to show to the world that they are serious in taking action against the terrorist organization and for money laundering. And that is why all this facade is done before, Financial Action Task Force is getting together. I tend to agree on one issue, there is no doubt that the chances of their placing them in a blacklist are very less for the reason that they have got 3 friends in Turkey, China and Malaysia. They are unlikely to be placed in a blacklist, but they may not come out of the grey list and put in a white list because the track record still is not very good. And whatever they are doing it is only doing just to eyewash and just for international consumption. They are not very serious. Had they been serious, they should have not taken a U-turn on Dawood Ibrahim by declaring that he is not there in Karachi, which they did it a day before. So therefore, what I feel is Pakistan track record is very poor as far as terrorists are concerned. They are not very serious in taking action against that. And as on today also, it is just an eyewash, just to ensure that they are not put in a blacklist and try to come out of the grey list.
Okay, Mr. Banerji, if you look at the history, it doesn't exude confidence really as far as Pakistan is concerned, because historically they have not done anything to show that they are positive about these kind of aspects, or to say that they really want to deal with terror. Yes, Pakistan has also been a victim of terror, but at the end of the day, not much is done to deal with terror organizations, be it on the border with Afghanistan or on the border with India as well.
You're absolutely right. The asymmetric option of using non-state actors against us has not been given up, neither is it intended to be given up, particularly as regarding destabilization and in Kashmir is concerned. However, these measures which they have taken recently may be little more than cosmetic. the mutual evaluation report of the FATF, which was issued in October 2019, it mentioned that there are several agencies now which are looking into the 13 out of the 27 actions in which Pakistani compliance was found to be wanting. And the problem is that there are only shortfalls in coordination between these various domestic agencies, as also, mitigation measures which are not found to be adequate as per the risk assessment norms that the FATF has prescribed for other countries. For example, the money laundering, anti-money laundering prosecution, 354 cases have been taken up by Pakistan as per the record they have put before the FATF, whereas only one conviction has resulted out of these 354 cases. The track record on terrorist financing is slightly better. 228 cases have been registered and 58 convictions have taken place, including that of Hafiz Mohammed Saeed, who is presently kept on a 5-year sentence at the Kot Lakhpat jail in Lahore. So this time perhaps it is little more than cosmetic, and they are really trying hard to at least project a reasonable face before the monitoring agencies of the FATF to show that they are trying to come out of the grey list. It may still not happen. They may still be kept there when the review takes place in October. But some of these provisions, for example, the recent two bills that have been sort of bulldozed, in fact, in the National Assembly, with both the national opposition parties, mainstream opposition parties, the PML, Nawaz and the PPP, being almost forced to agree at the point of the gun. But in the Senate, they have resided because there were doubts among politicians as well as businessmen across the board from all political parties who have links with all political parties about the rather draconian provisions which have been prescribed for arrest without without even warrants, and on a slight suspicion of involvement in money laundering. Also, the issue of the lack of any accountability, because they have said that the National Accountability Bureau could also take up cases against opposition politicians. The National Accountability Bureau is already having a bad reputation for doing only one-sided accountability, that is going after opposition politicians only and not doing anything against those having links with the government. So these are the reasons why they have not been able to credibly follow through with the implementation of certain new legislation, which they would like to present to the FATF before October.
All right. Okay. Taking the discussion forward now, I'm going to go back to a point that the general was making. I'm going to take that up with you, Ambassador. This issue of Dawood Ibrahim that came up. First they said that he's on the list. Then there was some kind of some kind of an issue really as far as whether he's on the list or not. And then finally it was revealed that he is indeed on the list. So what's going on there? I mean, do they really want to do something about it? How serious are they? Mr. Banerji is suggesting that this time around they could be a little more serious than before. Your thoughts?
My thoughts on that, Frank, are that Pakistan, as in other cases also, it wants to have the cake and eat it too. I think it has taken this out of the leaf of its mentor, that is China. We've seen in all these Corps Commander talks, China will agree to something in the talks and will not abide by it when it comes to the ground. So here also it has, very conveniently mentioned in terms of satisfying on paper the FATF that we are taking action exactly on what is required. But of course, not taking any action at all. It's just putting it on paper and not really walking the talk as far as this is concerned. So I would be very, very apprehensive. I would be very wary that, Pakistan has always been like this, has always been talking like this. You remember that when Imran Khan had gone to the UNGA and he said there are 40 to 50,000 terrorists in Pakistan and I'm going to deal with them and so on and so forth. Of course, it has mentioned the names in this also of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, those who have been acting against the government. One statement, Frank, that you made, maybe if I could just also comment on it, you said that Pakistan is also a victim of terrorism. I would have a slightly different perception on this. I think Pakistan is a victim of its own policies. It's not a victim of terrorism because terrorism is due to the policies it is following. You recall what Hillary Clinton had told her counterpart, Hina Rabbani Khair, in 2011, that if you are having snakes in your backyard to bite your neighbors, then surely they will be coming back at you also sometime. So this is exactly what has happened as far as Pakistan is concerned, that it has been sort of, giving, supporting, providing safe havens, training these terrorists. And of course, there will be a time when they will come and sort of, start biting the hand that feeds it. This is exactly what has happened, when that attack in Peshawar took place against that school, army school, and so on and so forth, whatever is happening. And of course, there might be some others right now because, as far as the Balochistan Liberation Army is concerned, because of the sort of things that are happening in that area as far as the CPEC is concerned. But Pakistan is a victim of its own policies. Not really. There is no foreign engineered terrorism against it, not from India, not from Afghanistan, not from anywhere else. If it were to stop its policies of supporting terror, I'm sure it would have not have any of this problem. But coming back to the issue that you raised, Frank, in terms whether I see some hope in what Pakistan is doing, I will wait for things really to clarify. I have very little faith in what Mr. Imran Khan is doing because he does not have the power. He does not have the authority, even if he wanted to take some action. And I'm convinced that he doesn't want to take any action. But even if he did, I'm sure the army will not allow him to do it. So both ways, I think it is a sort of a cul-de-sac that we are in. It is a no-go. And he is just putting this forward to tell the FATF that we have these intentions. These are good intentions. These are noble intentions. This is what we'll do. But if it is taken off, and I think it will not be, and I hope it is not, taken off the grey list, then if it is taken off, then it will be sort of, business as usual.
Right. Okay, talking about the grey list and the black list now, General, as far as blacklisting Pakistan is concerned, like you rightly pointed out, it's highly unlikely because of the support that, it has from China, Malaysia and Turkey. But as far as the grey list is concerned, do you see Pakistan coming out of the grey list, or do you see that Pakistan will continue to be in the grey list?
Frank, to me it looks like that it is unlikely that Pakistan will able to come out of the grey list. Again, it is a question of numbers. Since it has got 3 members, it can ensure that it is no more put in a blacklist because it has got China, Turkey as well as Malaysia. At the same time, to come out of the grey list, it requires 15 members out of these 37 members, this Financial Action Task Force, which is a financial watchdog, which headquarters in Paris. But the point is, can it muster 15 members? That is the crunch point. Are 15 countries ready to agree that Pakistan has done enough as far as against money laundering and terrorist funding is concerned? That is a mute question. The only point which comes is, what is the today, can say, what is the America attitude toward Pakistan? Because to some extent, America need Pakistan, especially when it want to exit from Afghanistan. There is no doubt Mullah brother, who is now heading this talk from Taliban side, is already in Pakistan discussing with that. So to that extent, I say that America may have a soft corner as far as Pakistan is concerned, that it will not try to push it to the blacklist. But I don't think that anyone will try that Pakistan should come out of the grey list and white list, because I don't think it will able to muster 15 countries, because all countries which are there, out of the 37 countries, majority of them are aware what is the track record of Pakistan. Pakistan is totally involved in terrorism. Any terrorist action taking place all over the world, you find the roots are in Pakistan. Pakistan has not taken action, viable action against Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaish-e-Mohammed. And remember that we have already filed, the NIA has filed charge sheet in the court against the perpetrators of Pulwama attack. So this has also put a pressure on Pakistan that India has managed to bring out that the involvement of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Masood Azhar and his close relatives. So to me it looks like that, considering the situation overall, chances of Pakistan placing in blacklist are very less. At the same time, Pakistan coming out of the grey list and coming to a white list is also very less, because I don't think it will able to muster the support of 15 members, because the track record of Pakistan is so poor that majority of the countries are aware that Pakistan is totally involved in terrorism. Today it is a hub center of terrorism, and therefore the chances are very less.
Right. So Mr. Banerji, let's go back to this issue of Dawood Ibrahim. Pakistan has finally accepted that Dawood Ibrahim is indeed in Pakistan. What does this mean for us? Can we use this as a leverage at some point in time? Because let's not forget, Dawood Ibrahim is the most wanted, really, as far as our list of most wanted is concerned. So what does this mean for us?
Actually speaking, you see, technically they have denied it the next day, as the general had pointed out. The Foreign Office has said that this is a statutory regulatory order, a follow-up action that we have taken, and it doesn't mean that he is actually in Pakistan. There is no change in our position that he is not in Pakistan. We don't know where he is. So this is the technical position that they keep resorting to, and this also reveals a striking trait of the Pakistani establishment, that they will not give up on their, protege or proxy actors whom they have used for so long. Now, Dawood Ibrahim has been a very major utility agent type of player in all their, actions that have led to him being also identified as a global terrorist. It happened sometime in 2003 when he was considered to have aided in the financing networks of the Al-Qaeda. So the West definitely has a specific evidence which led to the 2003 ostracization. Thereafter, Dawood has not been able to travel out of Pakistan, despite reports that he may have undertaken plastic surgery to change his appearance. In the past, he used to at least be able to go to UAE on various Pakistani passports under different names to look after his own business. But thereafter, he has not been able to travel so much. There are also reports of, indifferent health, that he has been maintaining an injury to his leg due to an abortive attempt to attack him in outskirts of Karachi. So he remains very carefully confined, and his movements are under, several layers of security, which the state helps to organize. But the capacity of the state to keep denying his existence there remains. It has not been compromised or changed as a result of this statutory regulation implementation. So we must be very clear about this Pakistani approach and intention. So as far as we are concerned, it doesn't change anything for India. We have to keep demanding his being sent over under international measures, be it Interpol, or because we don't have extradition arrangements with Pakistan. So to expect them to give him up is unlikely, and it will never happen. The other possibilities are to keep trying for other ways to neutralize him. His ability to continue his efforts as a sort of utility agent are already much reduced.
Right, sure. Okay, time to get quick closing comments from all my panelists now. The best way forward, starting first with the ambassador.
Well, I would imagine, we take this aspect on board that Dawood Ibrahim has been mentioned, that he has not one, not two, but three residences in Karachi, and sort of, go across to our partners, our friends, our allies, so that, more pressure can be put on Pakistan so that Dawood is given back to us. Very quickly, if I may mention one more point, as far as, we mentioned about Malaysia, that Malaysia would also be siding with Turkey and with China. That is a bit of a question mark. After Mahathir Mohammed went away, and even on the 5th of August, I think it was only Turkey and China which had come out against statements on Article 370 and reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir. So Malaysia is a doubtful issue. The other is, Pakistan getting 15 countries to come out of grey list. I think I agree with General, much will depend upon what the United States thinks. But also, I think, what is China thinking? Because if China wants to tell the FATF that Pakistan has moved a considerable way in controlling these, and China has a large number of IOUs with a number of countries. You saw what happened when 22 countries in the West spoke about Hong Kong. Then China was able to get 53 countries to say that, what China is doing is fine. On Xinjiang, also Uyghurs, when 20 odd countries in the West spoke against Chinese concentration camp in Xinjiang, then China was able to rustle up about 37 countries, including from the Muslim world, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, etc., to say, what China is doing is right. So I think it will depend to a very significant extent as to what China wants to do. And it can really definitely call on some of these IOUs from these members. So we'll have to be careful there. India is very much in the FATF. India needs to be cautious of this possibility and to take preemptive measures also going forward.
Absolutely. General.
Absolutely correct. I totally agree with the ambassador. There is no doubt Pakistan will try its best to come out of the grey list, and there is a chance that China will go all out to make sure it gets out of it. But India has to play its cards well. We have to diplomatically and politically make sure that Pakistan remain in a grey list at least, and that we can do it by exposing Pakistan. Remember that, one of the passport, he has got 15 passport, Dawood Ibrahim, and 5 are from Pakistan. The one which was initially got it from Rawalpindi was in 1991. Much before the Mumbai blast, which had taken place in 1993. So we can correct it and tell as to how Dawood Ibrahim was the one who was involved in a Mumbai blast in 1993. Now, other thing which is there is that we have to put pressure ourselves. We have to, in addition to our friend, try to expose Pakistan track record. And in case we can do that, we should try our best that Pakistan should not wriggle out of a grey list at least. Remember, the presidency of today of Financial Action Task Force in July has come with Germany, and Mark Player is the one who is the president of Financial Action. That will also make a difference. Earlier it was with the China. So to me it looks like that. Try to activate your friends. Try to mobilize, you can say, opinion against Pakistan internationally. Diplomatically isolated, politically isolated, put economic pressure on Pakistan, and make sure with your friend, don't let Pakistan come out of the grey list at least.
Right. And Mr. Banerji, close the show for us with your quick concluding remarks.
Well, I can hardly disagree with either the General or Ambassador Sajjanhar, but one other interesting development might happen in this interim period between now and October, and that is the appeal that is pending against the acquittal of Umar Saeed Sheikh in the Daniel Pearl killing by the Sindh High Court. Now, the appeal against that is pending in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, likely to come up for hearing on September 25. Now, Umar Sheikh, as you know, was suspected by Americans to have, been taken part in the transaction of sending across $100,000 way back before the 9/11 bombing of the Twin Towers to Muhammad Atta, one of the main perpetrators. Thereafter also he was then back in Pakistan, moving freely. He married in Lahore, but then he was involved in the Daniel Pearl kidnapping, though the actual murder of Pearl took place through a different person. But before that, Umar Sheikh had been convicted. Interestingly, at that time, just before his arrest, he had been befriended by the then Intelligence Bureau Chief of Pakistan, who is presently their Interior Minister of Pakistan, that is Brigadier Retired Ejaz Sheikh. So there are these linkages that are there, which are still very interesting about those in the establishment in Pakistan and the perpetrators of international terror based in Pakistan. But what view the Supreme Court takes against the acquittal of Umar Saeed Sheikh on September 25 could add to certain pressure along with the pressure which has already come through the revelation of findings of the National Intelligence Agency, Investigation Agency about the Pulwama bombings. So I would keep my fingers crossed that Pakistan remains in the grey list.
Okay, all right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us.